Today, we are cracking open a document that shapes the mind of every single Marine leader, from a brand new corporal all the way up to the generals in the Pentagon. And it's not about how to fight, it's about why you fight. And we're kicking things off with this quote because, man, it cuts right to the heart of everything. It's the very first thing you see when you open the Marine Corps' book on strategy, and it just sets the tone perfectly. This whole thing isn't just about being tough on the battlefield. It's about fusing thought with action. It's this deep belief that the smartest person in the room should also be the strongest, and, vice versa. So let me just ask you this. What if you win every single battle, but you still lose the war? I mean, think about it. History is absolutely littered with armies that were tactically brilliant. They were just unstoppable on the field. But in the end, they failed. Why? Well, it's because winning a firefight or taking a hill, no matter how impressive, it's just noise if it doesn't serve a much, much bigger purpose. And that is the core idea of this entire document, strategic success. It's all about achieving the political goal, protecting the country's interests. As MCDP 1-1 puts it, battlefield brilliance seldom rescues a bad strategy. You could have the best troops, the best gear on the planet, but if the overall plan is junk, if it's totally disconnected from the actual political goal, then it's all for nothing. So where does this way of thinking even come from? Well, the foundation for this critical skill, is laid out right here in the source document for today's deep dive. This right here is Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication 1-1, simply called Strategy. And what's really interesting is what the book says it's not. The foreword makes it super clear. This is not a cheat sheet for current events. It's not going to give you a prepackaged strategy, and you're definitely not supposed to carry it onto the battlefield. Its entire purpose is to educate the mind of a leader, to be a guide for their own self-study in the timeless art of strategic thinking. At its absolute most basic core, this is the definition the manual gives us. Strategy is just the bridge between what you want to achieve, your ends, and what you've got to work with, your means. It sounds so simple, right? But it's this incredibly complex process of connecting your goals with all your resources, whether those resources are troops, money, political goodwill, or even public support back home. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is for generals planning wars, but the document is really clear that this is for everyone. Any Marine has to understand strategy to know what their senior leaders actually need from them, to really get the why behind their orders, and, this is the big one, to recognize that in our modern world, a single tactical action by a single Marine can have instant, massive strategic consequences. The distance between a rifleman on the ground and a global headline has never, ever been shorter. Okay, so before we can really dig into military strategy, we have to understand the world it lives in. NCDP 1-1 draws this really sharp line between politics and policy. Think of politics as the messy, chaotic, sometimes totally irrational human struggle for power. Policy, on the other hand, is the rational plan a government comes up with to use the power it has. War is just one tool of that policy, but it always happens in that messy arena of politics. And that's the key. You can never really pull them apart. All right, with that political backdrop in mind, we can get to the real meat of military strategy. The manual basically argues that no matter what the situation is, military force is ultimately used in one of two fundamental ways. These are the two paths. First up, you've got a strategy of annihilation. This is all about completely shattering the enemy's ability to fight. You make their military so disorganized and broken that they are physically helpless to resist. The second path is a strategy of erosion. Now here, you're not trying to destroy their army, you're trying to destroy their will to fight by making the war so costly, so painful, that they just decide that peace on your terms is a better deal than continuing to fight. And when you put them side by side, the difference is it's stark. Annihilation goes for an unlimited military objectives, the complete and total defeat of the enemy's forces, focusing on their physical ability to wage war. Erosion, that's a limited objective. You're not trying to conquer them, you're trying to convince them. So the focus isn't on their army, it's on the minds of their leaders. One targets the body, the other targets the will. So how do you decide where to apply all that force? That's where this awesome concept called a center of gravity comes in. Now, this isn't just their biggest tank division or their capital city. A center of gravity is the core source of an enemy's strength and their will to fight. Sure, it could be their army, but it could also be their economy, their political leadership, or even the public's support for the war. A strategist's number one job is to figure out what it is. Let's make this super simple. Think of a championship football team. Their star quarterback, He's their center of gravity. The whole offense, the whole team's energy, it all flows through him. He's got the physical skill and the psychological mojo that gives the team its power. He is their source of strength. But here's the thing about strategy. You almost never want to attack a strength head-on. That's usually the costliest, bloodiest way to do things. Instead, a smart strategist looks for a critical vulnerability. This is a weakness, a chink in the armor that, if you can hit it just right, will make their entire center of gravity just crumble. So let's go back to our star quarterback, the center of gravity. He's protected by his offensive line. But what if that line is kind of shaky, a little inexperienced? That is the critical vulnerability. A smart opponent isn't going to just throw all their players at the quarterback. No way. They are going to relentlessly attack that weak offensive line. By pressuring the vulnerability, they completely neutralize the center of gravity. And that, right there, is strategy in action. You attack weakness to defeat strength. Okay, so this all sounds pretty high level, right? Generals moving pieces on a map. So how does all this theory connect back to the individual Marine on the ground? Why does any of this matter to every single person wearing the uniform? This quote right here, it says it all. In our age of instant global communication, the actions of one squad on one street corner can be broadcast around the entire world in minutes, and it could potentially derail a nation's entire political objective. Every single Marine is a strategic agent. Their actions, big or small, they don't happen in a bubble. They send ripples outwards, for good or for bad. And this really is the ultimate takeaway from MCDP 1-1. The Marine Corps deeply believes that all the tech, all the information, all the systems, they're just tools. The ultimate weapon is, and always will be, the mind of the individual Marine. Success isn't guaranteed by having more data or better missiles. It's secured by the judgment, the experience, and the strategic education of the people making decisions on the ground. So we're going to leave you with this challenge, and honestly, it applies way beyond the battlefield. Whether you're in a corporate boardroom or leading a small team, every decision you make is a strategic act. It's a choice of means to achieve some end. These principles challenge all of us to think beyond the immediate task and ask a much bigger question. Your next action has strategic consequences. What are they going to be? If you found this useful, make sure you're subscribed for more.